Okay, for question 11, it says the percent of people who are left-handed is 15%. A car manufacturer wants to have left-handed people participate in the study, so they sent out 500 requests for left-handed participants. So first of all, let's talk about what's given. Your population is not going to be all left-handed people because we're looking for left-handed people. So 15% of all people, which is the population, are left-handed. 50% of all people are left-handed. And so the P is 15%, which is 0.15. Then we send out 500, that's our sample size. So our sample N is 500 people. And we want to see of the 500 people, what percent are left-handed. Notice I don't have P hat. I don't know if this is less than or more than, any of that. That will show up later. And I don't need P hat or to know less than, more than, or between till later. And that's when they will show up, is later on when we look for 18% or more, 14% less than, or between 13 and 19. For the conditions, all I need is P. So remember what the conditions are. So condition 1, your data has to be random. So we look here, and it should have stated that we have 500 random. It's a little typo there. So random should be stated. So let's say that is stated now. So random stated. So that one is taken care of. Check. Remember, you need to pass all 3 to move on. So if it didn't state random, we wouldn't be able to move on. Condition 2, remember what the condition is. Your condition 2 is your population has to be greater than 10 times your sample size. The population has to be greater than 10 times the sample size. So your population is all people. All people. Is that greater than 10 times the sample size of 500? 10 times 500 is 5,000. Are there more people in the world than 5,000? Check, that passes. And then condition 3, n times p greater than or equal to 10, and n times 1 minus p greater than or equal to 10. So n is 500, p is 0.15, and then n, 500 times 1 minus 0.15. If we put that in the calculator, 500 times 0.15 gives you 75. That is greater than or equal to 10. And 500 times 1 minus 0.15, that gives you 425. That is greater than or equal to 10. So it passes condition 1, condition 2, and condition 3. Now, when I ask for mean, that would be your P, and P is 0.15. The mean is P, 0.15. To find your standard error, remember we have a formula for that. The formula is square root of P times 1 minus P all over N. So the square root of P, which is 0.15, times 1 minus 0.15 all over N. N is 500. Put that in the calculator. We have square root of 0.15, parenthesis, 1 minus 0.15, close parenthesis, divided by 500, and you get 0.01596. So let's round that off to 0.016. 0.016, and we want to be careful that we write it down correctly, that your standard error is 0.016. Now 0.16, 0.016. So be careful writing that down. Then the first question says we're looking for find the probability of obtaining a sample of 500 people in which 18% or more are left-handed. Okay, so remember the formula for Z is P hat minus P over your SE. So P hat in this case is 0.18 minus the P, which is 0.15, in parentheses over your SE of 0.016. So we put that in the calculator. That would be parenthesis 0.18 minus 0.15, close parenthesis, divided by 0.016. And that gives us a z-score of, and z-scores making 2 decimal places for the table, 1.88, 1.88. We'll draw our picture. 1.88 standard deviations to the right would be about here. and we're looking for more than. We're looking for more than, so we shade everything more than. Okay, we go to our Z table, we look up 1.88, so we have 1.88, and when we match those up, 1.88, that gives us 0.9699. Remember, the table always tells us less than 0.9699. So to the left is 0.9699. But remember, we're looking for more than. So 100 minus 96.99, that gives us 3.01%. Now, before we write that in a sentence, let's check it in the calculator. So to check that in the calculator, we need the fraction where p hat comes from. So remember, p hat is 0.18, but what's the fraction? The fraction would be 500 would be in the denominator. So we do 500 times 0.18. So 500 times 0.18, that would be 90. So the fraction, which is what we need for the calculator, is 90 over 500. 90 would be the x, n would be the 500. So we go to the calculator. Let's check if that answer is correct by hitting stat to the right for tests. Go down to number 5, 1 proportion z-test, p, which is 0.15 in this case, and then remember x is 90, n is 500. Remember, we're doing more than. Choose more than. When you choose more than, go to draw, and you get a z of 1.8787, which is close to what we got, and there's the 3.01%. If you get an error in this case, remember you can always go to stat, over to tests, number 5, choose calculate instead of draw, and it will give you the same answer, z and p. And if you get an error, maybe your y equals, you have plots on or something in your y equals. Okay, but we check that our answer is correct. So when I write this in a sentence, there is a 3.01% chance of randomly selecting 500 people in which 18% or more are left-handed. Okay, so there's more than. There's more than. Let's go to less than. So for less than, now we're looking for find the probability of obtaining a sample of 500 people in which less than 14% of people say they're left-handed. So we go through our same process. Z equals 0.15 minus 0.15 divided by 0.016. We put that in the calculator. Parenthesis 0.14 minus 0.15, close parenthesis, divided by 0.016, and that gives you negative 0.625. We'll call that negative 0.63, negative 0.63. If we were going to draw this, negative 0.63 would be to the left, almost a full standard deviation. And remember, this time we're looking for less than. We're looking for less than. So we shade everything less than. We go to the table. We're going to look up negative 0.63. So negative 0.6. And we're going to match it with the 3. Negative 0.63. So here's the 0.3, so we're going to match that up, negative 0.63, and we get 0.2643, 0.2643. The table tells us to the left, 0.2643. We're looking for less than, the table gives us less than, so we have 26.43% as our answer. To check it, remember, we need the fraction. So p hat is 0.15. Where do we get the fraction from? The denominator is 500. How do I get the numerator? 0.14 times 500. So 0.14 times 500, that gives you 70. So we have 70 over 500. 70 is x, n is 500. So we go to the calculator, stat, over to tests, number 5. P is 0.15, x is now 70. We're doing less than, so choose less than. You can go to calculator, draw your choice. Z-score very close. P-value 0.2656, 0.2643, very, very close. We know we did it correct. So now we write the sentence. There is a 26.43% chance of randomly selecting 500 people in which 14% or less are left-handed. So there is a 26.43% chance of randomly selecting 500 people in which 14% or less are left-handed.